There we go. Welcome to the Manufacturing Engineering Media Webinar Series. Our presentation today is Measurement Technology, a Smart Investment and a Source of Competitive Advantage, sponsored by Hexagon Metrology Incorporated. Hello, I'm Mike Anderson, a Senior Editor at ME Media. Before the presentation begins, I'd like to provide some background on what we will be doing today. Our sponsor today is Hexagon Metrology. The company offers a comprehensive range of products and services for all industrial metrology applications in sectors such as automotive, aerospace, energy, and medical. In a moment, we'll be hearing from our speaker, Jeff Freeman, Director, North American Sales Operations at Hexagon Metrology. Jeff has over 30 years' experience in multiple industries as a machinist, a user of most major types of metrology equipment, and in global sales of capital equipment. In Jeff's presentation, you will learn, among other things, how to evaluate your manufacturing process to determine the best places to apply measurement technology, and how to quantify the resulting benefits. You will be able to ask questions during the presentation using the Q&A box that will appear at the right of the screen. Time permitting, these will be answered following the presentation. If time runs out before we can get to all the questions, we will make sure the answers are emailed to you. If you experience difficulty during the presentation, please let us know via that Q&A app. Also, if you have questions about any other aspects of our webinars, please email me at manderson, M-A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N, @sme.org. I'll rejoin you after the presentation with a few concluding remarks. And now, here's Hexagon Metrology's Jeff Freeman. Jeff?
Thank you, Mike, and thank all of you who are participating in the webinar today. I appreciate you taking time from your busy schedules to attend. In preparing for this webinar, it gave me a lot of time to reflect on my career in manufacturing and the opportunities that I've had to see just how exciting and how challenging the manufacturing industry is. And for all of us who have been involved in manufacturing, we know how highly competitive it is. And we all understand how how important it is to have attention to detail. You simply cannot make errors. It costs money, it puts companies out of business, it puts people in danger. And for those who have been in the business and understand the structural costs and regulatory compliance, it increased the cost of doing business in manufacturing. And this has led for manufacturers to constantly be looking for ways to reduce their costs, stay competitive, improve productivity, increase your profitability, and key to that is finding a competitive advantage. And that's a lot about what I want to address in this webinar today is competitive advantage. Now, there is, in my opinion and my experience, no sustainable competitive advantage for very long. So it's a never-ending process to find a competitive advantage. And if you're in manufacturing, you've primarily looked at the manufacturing side of the business. And it made sense because manufacturing is what adds the value to the product, so that's where you want to make the investments. However, as more and more companies have also made investments in manufacturing technology, it begins to equalize out the competitive advantages you may have had at one time. So the search is on for the next competitive advantage. You look at your non-value additives of every business. How can you reduce this? How can you eliminate this? How can you do more with less to save costs and keep you competitive? And then you look at other areas of your business as potential sources of a competitive advantage. Well, where else can you look at? When you've looked at everything, where might you return to and take a second look, or take a look at something you really never considered before? What about your measurement technology? And that's what I'm going to focus on this webinar today, is viewing measurement technology as a competitive advantage. But wait, we're going to look at our quality equipment, our measurement, our Q&A, our quality control. All that is non-value added, right? I am not here today to answer that question. or to render an opinion other than this. It doesn't matter. Whether your company sees it as value added or non-value added, it really is not going to make a difference because you're going to do the verification anyway. So if you're going to do the verification, why don't you do it to the best of your ability using the best technology that's going to allow you to do it faster, more efficiently, more accurately, and get on to the next process. Potentially, you're looking at an untapped competitive advantage, and it's right in front of you, and that is your measurement technology. And let's look at some of the changes that have taken place in measurement technology. You've had the emergence and broad acceptance of laser tracker technology, portable metrology, including articulated arm CMMs, non-contact scanning systems such as white light systems, ultra-high accuracy bridge CMMs, shop floor CMMs, which move the measurement process right out to your manufacturing centers, and optical or multi-sensor measurement systems. So measurement technology has changed. How have you changed to keep pace with measurement technology? Well, why is measurement technology so overlooked? Well, there's several reasons. It's not really a forethought. It's usually an afterthought because everyone's looking at and thinking, again, as we've said, about manufacturing. Measurement technologies are frequently specialized. Specialized knowledge, specialized training. Very few people in the company know how to operate them because if you look at the ratio of people who use measuring technology to people in manufacturing, it's a very small population of the employees. So also there's the rapid changes that are taking place. And if you're focused on the manufacturing side, you have enough on your plate there because that's also changing rapidly, that you need to have only the people who know that, which is your daily users of measurement technology, involved in the conversation. And additionally, metrology solutions and technology have begun to be used not just in a quality control, verification, quality assurance process, but they're now used proactively in manufacturing processes as well. So it is a competitive advantage. Measurement technology is a competitive advantage, and the information that you collect during the verification processes can be used to improve your manufacturing and your verification throughput. You can refine your manufacturing processes, which may help you eliminate scrap and rework, which leads to higher material costs. And we all want to reduce that because every company is looking at scrap, rework, and material costs. Lower design costs can also be realized. We've seen this in the past with breakthrough technologies that in certain cases completely have changed how we approach the design of a product, because we now have a measurement technology that allowed us to perform it in such a way that we were not able to ever do before. So lower design costs were achievable. An example of this is in the aircraft industry. It certainly was such an impact that allowed companies to bring aircraft from design to flying off a runway in a much shorter period of time than ever before. All of this will improve your profitability, which is, after all, a goal. Now, very important point to me is that unless you take what you've learned and you incorporate it into every business practice you have, such as how you account for costs, how you estimate your cost estimating models, your bidding processes, you cannot maximize the investment you've made. And this is one area that I repeatedly see that does not get followed through or close the loop. Take what you've learned, integrate it, implement it, utilize it. It has to be disseminated throughout the company so everyone knows how they can take advantage of the competitive advantage. So where are we going to get started with this? What's the process? Well, the process in a very quick snapshot is we're going to identify opportunities. It could be internal or external. You're going to perform the analysis. You're going to consider your options. You're going to take all the results, compile them, and complete the paperwork that's necessary. You're going to submit the results using your company's approved method of justification. Now, it's very important to understand that method of justification. We'll talk more about that. But keep in mind also, there may be multiple sources of competitive advantage that you could go after first. You're going to be selective. And as you get a little more experienced in this and you think about it, you're going to find out what might be what we typically always call the low-hanging fruit that can help you get started. I'm going to suggest you start with current measurement technology processes. You know your current process is best. In fact, I'll give you a caution. You probably know your current measurement processes so well and you do them so naturally that you don't really think about them. And I'm going to suggest that you really pay attention and thinking about all the little steps that come so natural to you in your current processes that they're overlooked when you're performing documentation. You can easily identify the bottlenecks in your measurement process because you live with them every day. If you're in the measurement or quality field, you can ask, is my current process productive? Is it as productive as it could be? Have I seen something out there that would make it more productive that we should look at? That's the newer technology. Is our old technology getting in our way? This is part of the justification and the analysis you're going to go through. How are we utilizing our data? During this webinar, we're not going to have time to go off into another area of this that's very important, which is the software used in measurement technology. However, what are you doing with the data you're collecting? And that is software-based, and that also needs to be analyzed. And when it comes to performing the justification, the one thing that's going to be looked at and must be financially proven is improved performance over present performance. And that's the case you're going to have to make. So let's look at some examples. As an internal example, using measurement technology past its prime. Years ago, your company purchased a CMM. They needed a CMM, and they purchased a manual CMM. However, today, the number of parts that your company is measuring has increased. The quantity of the parts has also increased, so your manual measurement process is now a bottleneck. Well, what do? Well, you're going to investigate some options. Now, for the sake of simplicity for this option, let's assume that a DCC controller coordinate measuring machine is the best solution. So now you need to make the case. And the case that you're going to need to make in here is manual performance versus the DCC performance. Now, when you're doing this, you may have to look at one-time efforts, non-recurring, such as part programming. You need to look at that. Now, there's a learning curve involved there, and you have to know how many parts you're going to have to program. But that's, as you become more efficient at programming, this time will go down. But don't overlook these little areas. Don't overlook intangibles that you're going to want to also use in making your case, such as repeatability of measurements. DCC CMMs are more repeatable than manual machines because of the lack of operator influence on the probing. But the bottom line, we're changing the current process, improve performance. Always keep that in the forefront of your mind. Look at another example, a manual surface plate inspection that has been used using multiple setups, manual handheld measuring tools, calipers, micrometers, gauge blocks, height gauge, dial indicators, knee blocks. You know, you've seen it, you've done it, you know what I'm talking about. The information is recorded manually. And again, more part numbers, more parts, takes more time. Is this a bottleneck? Well, ask yourself the questions. What options should I be looking at? What can I replace this manual, multiple setup process with that's going to create some improvement for us, going to reduce our costs, increase our throughput, eventually make us more competitive, give us an advantage. Bottom line again, changing the current process, improve performance. One last example of where to look internally. Insufficient measurement technology. You've got a CMM, one large CMM. However, all the parts have to go across the one CMM. And you have a quantity of small parts that have to go across the CMM that create a bottleneck that hold up the large parts, which while of smaller quantity are of higher dollar value. They have to wait. Now what's wrong with that situation? Well, if you can't run it through the inspection verification process, you're not going to ship it. And if you're not going to ship it, you're not going to invoice it. And then you've impacted the financial management of your company. And then you need to know what's that costing the company. So how would you address this? What's some solutions that you should look at to remove this bottleneck, get these parts through the process faster, get them shipped, get them invoiced, which is going to make your financial management people much happier. And they need to know what you've done to make them happier. Well, you could purchase some additional smaller CMMs, take the load. Small parts don't need large CMMs. You might find a very cost-effective smaller CMM that you might also move right out near the manufacturing process to completely eliminate that bottleneck. There's other technologies such as on-machine verification measurement technology you could also consider and evaluate. Again, the bottom line, changing the current process, improve performance. Now we've looked at 3 internal examples. What I want to look at now is some other areas that outside the company that could impact you. You have a major competitor. They have a measurement technology that you don't have. They may have gotten involved with the technology years ago. They were an early adopter of a then relatively unknown, underused measurement technology, but they've now become the experts with it. And they've gained a competitive advantage in their measurement processes simply because they have this technology. We've seen this with laser trackers. We've seen this with portable arms. We've seen this with vision machines. We see it with scanning technology, both portable and on bridge CMMs all the time. So there's something to consider. Are you lagging a major competitor or are you leading them? Here's another area that can be troublesome. Your customer has better measurement technology than you do. Now, I always like to be in a position where you have to prove me wrong. My measurement technology is keeping me ahead of the game rather than my customer telling me after we've sent something, we ran it across our incoming inspection, receiving inspection, and we think you're out of specification. Okay, you can avoid that by looking at your customers and making sure that you're at least at parity with them or even better. Now, another area, potential customer is not going to give you their business unless you can bring up your measurement technology to what they consider to be current levels. Another area we see all the time, companies scrambling around at the last minute, they're getting a contract, they need something new. They've got to upgrade. That's going to take them some time, though, after they have it, to understand how to make it effective for them. I don't know how often you run into this where your manufacturing technology has a higher accuracy than your measurement technology. How can you maximize the value of the investment that you've made in your manufacturing technology if you cannot inspect, verify parts to a higher degree of accuracy than what your manufacturing technology can produce? There's a source of new business for you out there if only you can verify it. Why do we have to go through the justification process? Well, companies just don't buy capital equipment on impulse. You've got your experience. You've done this for a long time. You can see the benefit. You can see the value. But your experience and your intuition is not going to be enough to make a capital investment just happen. You're going to have to go out there. You're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to prove it that this investment is going to benefit the company. And that may take some time, and it's certainly going to take some effort. But the successful justification and getting the approval is going to be the result of doing all the right things. So let's look at what some of those things might be. Well, first is going to start with an understanding of how your company approves capital equipment. Now, many companies use a return on investment or an ROI methodology, which is going to look at time period in years that the company is going to use to justify capital equipment purchases. That time period is commonly called a hurdle rate. hurdle rate could be variable, 2 years, 3 years, 18 months, but this is very important. You know what that hurdle rate is, and also how you could possibly challenge that hurdle rate for something that you might need that would prove it take a little longer to see the return on investment. Again, the key measurement to be proven is improved performance over present performance. So generally, when you're calculating this, you have to consider the tangible, the measurable, the things you can add a dollar amount to. But there are also the intangible benefits that you need to look at, such as reduced operator error, less fatigue, potentially some ergonomic issues, the fact that one operator can operate more than one piece of measurement technology at a time if you upgrade, and you need to find ways that you're going to be able to apply a dollar value to all of it so that you can factor it in to your analysis and to your ROI. We're going to also talk about other areas upstream and downstream from your process that you're going to want to investigate. Another important point you need to consider is your company's budgeting cycle. If you're coming in and trying to get an approval for a capital equipment purchase of measurement technology after the annual budgeting cycle, you could be locked out for another year unless you can make such a strong, compelling case that your company is going to be willing to knock someone else's request out of the way and move yours up the chain, which ideally you'd like to have. But understand what the annual budgeting cycle or how they work the budget cycle so that you can get in sync with that as quickly as possible. Plugging in the numbers is the easy part. It's the getting the numbers that is the work and the analysis and the thinking you're going to have to do. So where are we going to start with this? Well, we need a baseline for comparison. This is why I'm suggesting you start with internal measurement technology process, capability and processes first. Start with what you're currently doing. Map the current processes. Remember, I mentioned about paying it close attention, not overlooking small steps that come so naturally to you now that you don't realize you're doing them. Every one of those steps has a cost. It has a time element associated with it, and that means that it costs something. So make sure when you process map that you're detailed. Okay? There's also an experience curve, the learning curve. If you've been doing something in a certain way for a number of years, you of course are much faster at it than you would be if you were just doing it for the first time, or if you were using a new piece of equipment to do it for the first time. So you want to understand what that experience or learning curve, how positively it's going to impact your measurements now, and you need to take that into consideration when you're evaluating your options later. I'm going to recommend that you document to a level that is going to exceed the justification of the purchase. Take extra time to find every piece of evidence you can find that you can apply a factor to that's going to make the strongest possible case for you when you go in front of management. Don't do this alone. When I started out trying to do this, I started out trying to do it alone. It is like trying to roll a boulder up a hill. You need a team of people to get on board with you. You also need to understand what your company's process for doing this is. You need to get in sync with it and work with it. Don't fight your company's process. Learn how to use your company's process to your advantage and enlist people to help you. And it will make it that much easier and more enjoyable. So now we get into comparative measurements. That's our apples and oranges comparison here. You need to select some parts. And I'm going to recommend when you select parts that you're very careful in the parts that you select for your baseline measurements. For example, size and complexity. You may have parts of various sizes and parts of various complexity, and parts that you measure more frequently than you do others. You want to be fair in how you're measuring this, because if someone wants to question your assumptions and they challenge you on your size and complexity or quantity of parts, you need to be able to back it up. So don't leave yourself open for something to be attacked. Make sure that you pick size, complexity, and quantity of parts and part numbers that is a good representation of the processes and the challenges you face in the process. Additionally, don't overlook special requirements. You could have special fixturing, special tooling, special probing, special material handling equipment. There could be times when it takes more than one person or more than one piece of equipment. So you don't want to overlook the factors that all fit into this. Document each step or task in the process. Don't overlook anything. If you have to do it more than once to make sure you didn't overlook anything, repeat it till you know that you have it. But get it all documented. Now you need to take all that and you're going to calculate the costs associated with it. Well, there's recurring costs. There's your non-recurring costs we talked about, right? Recurring costs is you're going to measure this, how many times you've been doing it, what way, and how long has it been taking you per part, hourly rates, and so on, which we have an ROI Calculator worksheet example that we'll show you here. And here's the ROI Calculator example. Now, you can visit our website at hexmet.us/justify, and you can download a copy of this. You can also download a white paper that could give you some additional information how to use it. We also have a comparative video there on technologies that clearly show an ROI example and a justification. However, you could also set up your own ROI calculator using Excel spreadsheet, or if your company has something existing that they use as standard, then you're probably going to have to use that. Now you've established the baseline with your parts. I want you to now consider going upstream and downstream from your processes. By that I mean what processes preceded your process and what processes come after your process. And talk to the people and understand how what they're doing is affecting what you're doing and the costs that are associated with it. You may find that you're having to do something in a certain way only because someone downstream process from you needs your information so that they can do something. And when you look at a process, all the processes in their entirety, you may learn that you can eliminate some steps, that there's a manufacturing technology that can influence a design approach that would eliminate steps, which will reduce the costs, increase your throughput, increase profitability, give you a competitive advantage. There's little things that may not be obvious, and this is a result of asking questions of as many people as possible. And I frequently find using the Socratic approach and asking questions will uncover a lot of hidden information because, again, people who do things so often, they don't realize they're doing it. They've sort of like it's become part of the neural network, and they just don't think about it. It's done automatically. So take time, ask those questions, and you'll draw out information you didn't have. Now, when you're going to gain these understanding into the current processes, upstream and downstream, and their costs, you're going to document the findings that you learn. And again, going back to recruit the help from all of these departments. The more support you can get, the better. They can begin to help you sell this internally as well through themselves, through their management, to help you strengthen your case. You're going to bring all your data together into your analysis. Now, have you got a complete picture of the process? Do you understand the costs? Can you see it all? What's missing in your picture? Go back, fill in anything that's missing, because you're about to go off into the next, which is looking at what measurement technologies you want to bring in and compare. Okay, you've established your baseline. Now you're going to look at your options in measurement technologies that you're going to measure and compare against your baseline for their suitability and their acceptance for their improved performance. This is where I suggest that you utilize your measurement technology suppliers. They've got the equipment that they can bring in for you to evaluate. They may have ideas and suggestions of approaches that you haven't thought of when they see what you're trying to accomplish. They also have applications engineers who are experienced, have the knowledge to operate the equipment, and very importantly, experienced applications engineers who, after having gone through a measurement process with you a couple times, are going to be representing that learning curve effect very quickly. And for those who work in and understand what T1 units are and coming down the learning curve, you realize that the more you come down the learning curve, the faster you're going to manufacture or process units. It's going to be the same in the measuring technology. So figure out where down the learning curve you should be making your comparisons at. Now you want to take the new technologies, you're going to go back and get those same parts you selected, because that's common. You want to use the same parts. It's just a consistent standard by which you'll be able to do your comparison. And you're going to go in and remeasure each of those parts using the new technologies you're looking at, and you're going to benchmark them against each other new technology as well as your current measurement technology. Following the same approach that we described back in the slide establishing baseline comparative measurement slide. Same approach, same methodology. Then ranking the measurement technologies by their performance, price, capability, and how each compares against your ROI requirements. Different technologies at different price points, some may certainly fit much easier against the ROI hurdle rate that your company is saying you have to use. Others may not, but if you feel they're a better, more suitable fit long term, then you should build a compelling case as to why the additional ROI hurdle should be looked at and approved rather than maybe the one that you have now. Remember, the shorter the ROI that you can justify, the more likely you are and more quickly you are to gain the approval. So you're going to select the ones that have the best suitability and for justification and run with those. Again, taking the new technologies, see what would, and this won't take anywhere near as much time the second time around with new technology. Go through that upstream, downstream process again for each technology and talking to the same people. You're accomplishing several things. You're educating the upstream process and downstream process folks on what you're looking at. You're bringing them in to give you suggestions on how you could better utilize the technologies you're looking at. They're also thinking about what they might have to do or how they could use what you're proposing to improve their processes. So it's a very much a closed loop, continuous improvement system that you're looking for. Now you're going to take all the numbers again, putting the example we had of the ROI calculator, and plugging all the numbers in and checking and double checking and performing the calculations and seeing how they look. And when you've worked it, and it may take one or more iterations to understand that you have what you need, then of course you bring all that information else and prepare the documentation and your justification proposal per your company's standard instructions. You'll submit. Generally, I've always had to go up and do a presentation and make the case in person, or someone in the department had to go up and make the case. So I would say prepare. Start preparing. Have your backup. Always have your backup data available to use. As thorough as possible. In a summary of what we've discussed today, I'm hoping that you now will look at your measurement technology as a source of competitive advantage that you may not have looked at as closely before. And suggest that you start with your current measurement processes and the current measurement technologies that you're using as your starting point for evaluation. Again, I suggest you work with your measurement technology solutions suppliers. They can be of a great aid to you, support, and again, they have the equipment and experienced people. Understand your company's system. Work within your company's system as best you can. I learned the hard way. Don't fight it. Build the relationships you need to build. Understand how the process works. Work within the process. And don't give up until you've achieved the result you want to have. In one particular case, it took me 7 years to gain the approval before we could realize the benefit of having made the capital equipment purchase. So I did. Don't give up. After you've had your approval and you've received the equipment and you've implemented the equipment and you're through the training and you've come down that learning or experience curve, now measure the improvements of performance over past performance. And get ready to use that, because that's the information that you can put out there in presentations and in reports, and you can demonstrate, physically demonstrate. That's going to make it easier and and get you far more cooperation the next time you're proposing a competitive advantage opportunity that you've found in your measurement technology. Again, unless you go and incorporate all the improvements into every business process and completely, again, close that loop, you cannot maximize the results of the investment. And this is unfortunately one area that I constantly see not completed. They've done it all. They've gotten the equipment. In certain areas, they, of course, are realizing the performance improvement. They just haven't communicated it to everyone else, so everyone else knows how to take that information and use it successfully to make a company-wide competitive advantage out of it. When you've done that, go look for another opportunity. By now, you have gained the experience in how to do this. You've learned how your company does it. You've gained a lot of new skills in how to go make these justifications. Your company will appreciate that you are looking out for their best interests and keeping them competitive, and you will have gained a lot more specialized knowledge for yourself. Again, you can visit our website, where we have an ROI calculator, a white paper, and a video example for you. If we can ever be of help, please let us know. My contact information is on the first page of the slide. Please don't hesitate to contact me personally if I can help in any way. Thank you for attending the webinar today.
Hey, hello, this is Mike Anderson jumping in again. And we have received some questions, and it would be nice to get to all of them before our time is up. A reminder that all unanswered questions will be passed along to Hexagon, and you can expect a reply via email. In addition, more information on the topic may be found at the Hexagon website. The address is hexagonmetrology, all one word, .us. So Jeff, here's a good question to start out with. How long can this process take?
Well, if you submitted your question very early in the webinar, as I said towards the end of the webinar, I actually spent 7 years in one case fighting annual budgeting and annual approval process before we were able to gain the approval. So, however, I feel that if I could have made a stronger case earlier, I probably could have had an earlier approval. So that was my learning curve. But it can take, hopefully this webinar is giving you a bit of a leg up on how to get a little jump start on this. I learned the process a very hard way through trial and error. So it can take a very variable amount of time. No set time.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, here's another question. This one might sound familiar. We fought this battle before. How do we make sure we win it? It's a vague question, but here we go.
Well, if you fought the battle before and without speaking, without discussing with you personally, I don't know exactly how you fought the battle.
Would never know
I fought the battle. I fought the battle in a very rudimentary way, which was saying this is what we need to do, and without all of the reporting and the evidence collection and formally submitting things. So I would say go back, take another look at it, make sure that you're fighting the right fight, and then put the information back together and try to improve what you've done and find out why. If no one's approving what you're doing, why aren't they approving it? Where's the weakness in the case you're making, or the perceived weakness in the case that you're making? And then go and plug that hole in your case.
Okay. Jeff, we got another one here. The question is, what about built-in quality instead of too much measurement?
Oh, what a great goal. Absolutely. If we want the quality to be built into the product. In this case, the measurement is simply a verification that the process that you use to build the quality in is in control. Now, if you're using statistical process control sampling, and you're reaching a point of sampling that you know your process is in control, then you will drop your you'll measure less often because the process is in control. So no, that is absolutely where you want to go. In many cases, when you can do it, and you should always look to build quality in. You cannot, as we all know, you're not going to inspect it in. You're not going to verify it in. It's just going to tell you that it's just going to tell you that it's there. But it can also help you catch sooner rather than later when the process is not in control and it's about to cost you a lot of money.
Okay, and getting toward the end here, here's a very good one. The person says, I work in inspection, so I see this as value added, but management doesn't see it that way. How do I change their mind?
Well, you don't. You don't change their mind. Only they can change their mind, because again, it is that you see it as value added. Okay, they don't see it as value added. If you could make the case to them and bring an awareness to them that regardless, it doesn't matter. You're going to do it anyway, and maybe from their perspective the argument is, well, you don't think it's value added, so really why don't we do this and get it out of your way even faster so you don't have to deal with it as long as you do now? Because if you look at every process in the company, whether you feel something is value added or not, why should you let a non-value added process consume time and resources? It's costing you money. You make that case, you won't have to change their mind. They will change their mind.
Excellent. Well, that kind of takes care of the questions that we have here. Another reminder to those of you with us still that if you come up with another question for Jeff or for hexagon metrology, you should feel free to shoot us an email, and you will get a reply by email once we're done here. And now, a few remarks. As Jeff has shown, understanding modern metrology and what it can do for you can lead the way to a better bottom line. Manufacturing Engineering Media has a host of ways by which you can keep abreast of the latest in metrology technology and techniques. For instance, the just-released May issue of Manufacturing Engineering is focused on medical manufacturing, and it includes a feature titled Medical Metrology Finds the Best Fit by our contributing editor, Bruce Morey. Our August IMTS special issue will include a section on quality assurance, and our September issue will include a feature on measurement and inspection. Also, our Energy Yearbook will cover quality in the wind power industry. Also, SME and ME Media publishes a monthly Quality in Manufacturing e-newsletter. And finally, quality and metrology are components of upcoming SME events such as Rapid Additive Manufacturing Solutions, which is co-located this year with the new Big M event this June in Detroit. and FabTech, which is this November in Atlanta. You can find information about all of this stuff at our website. So thanks for joining us for this Manufacturing Engineering Media webinar. We hope you found it informative. Good afternoon.